Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're heading way back, like way back to ancient Greece. 5th century BC, to be exact.
The golden age of philosophy. Think Socrates, Plato.
And Anaxagoras.
Exactly. Though he doesn't always get the same recognition as some of his contemporaries, but trust me, he was a revolutionary thinker. Way ahead of his time.
A real trailblazer. From what I've read, he was tackling some pretty huge questions.
Yeah.
The nature of the universe, the cosmos.
He was trying to understand the cosmos without the tools we take for granted today. No telescopes, no fancy labs, just observation and pure brain power.
So let's paint a picture for our listeners.
Yeah.
What was life actually like back then in ancient Greece? I mean, it wasn't all togas and philosophical debates, right?
Well, there were definitely togas and debates, but life in ancient Greece was, well, let's just say it was a lot different than what we're used to. Imagine a world where mythology and religion were woven into every aspect of daily life.
The gods were everywhere.
Everywhere. Controlling the weather, influencing wars, even dictating personal matters.
And then along comes Anaxagoras, questioning everything. He wasn't exactly playing it safe, was he?
Not at all. In fact, his ideas ended up ruffling quite a few feathers. But before we get into all that, let's start with his background. Where did this radical thinker come from?
Yeah, let's set the stage. Give us a little Anaxagoras 101.
All right, so Anaxagoras was born around 500 BC in Clazomenae. This was a Greek city in Asia Minor, which at the time was under Persian rule. And this is an important point because ancient Greece wasn't a single unified nation like we think of today.
Right, it was more like...
A collection of city-states, each with their own government, laws, and cultural quirks. Sort of like
an ancient Greek version of the United Nations, but a little more...
Solid.
That's it.
They were constantly forming alliances, battling each other. It was a very dynamic period.
Okay, so we have a sense of the world Anaxagoras was born into. What were some of the major philosophical ideas floating around at the time? I mean, he wasn't born into a vacuum.
This was a time when philosophy was really starting to blossom. Thinkers were grappling with fundamental questions. What is the nature of reality? What are we made of? How should we live our lives?
The big questions.
Exactly. And different schools of thought were emerging, each with their own answers. Some, like the Pythagoreans, were fascinated by mathematics and saw numbers as the key to understanding the universe. Others, like the Milesian philosophers, were searching for a single underlying substance that made up everything in existence.
And Anaxagoras, how did he fit into all of this? Where did his journey take him?
Well, eventually, he finds his way to Athens.
Athens, the heart of it all, the center of intellectual and cultural life.
Exactly. And this is where Anaxagoras really makes his mark. He thrives in this environment, surrounded by other thinkers, engaging in debates and discussions. He even becomes friends with a pretty influential figure, Pericles.
Wait, Pericles, as in the Pericles who led Athens during its golden age.
The one and only.
Wow, talk about connections. So this friendship, I'm guessing it came in handy for someone with such radical ideas.
You could say that. Having the most powerful man in Athens as your buddy certainly doesn't hurt when you're challenging the very foundation of their worldview.
Okay, you've got to tell us more about these radical ideas.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that Anaxagoras proposed that had everyone so riled up?
Well, imagine trying to understand the universe, the cosmos, everything around us, but without the tools and knowledge we have today. That was Anaxagoras' challenge.
Talk about a challenge. So where did he even begin?
He started by asking a very simple but profound question. What is everything made of?
Okay, so back to basics.
Right. But he wasn't satisfied with the answers that were being offered at the time. Many believed that everything was made up of just one element, like water or air.
Anaxagoras wasn't convinced?
Not one bit. He saw the diversity of the world around us, the trees, the mountains, the stars. He couldn't accept that they could all be reduced to a single fundamental substance.
So what did he propose instead?
Get ready for this because it's a bit of a mind bender. He proposed something called nous.
Moose. Sounds intriguing, but I have no idea what that means.
It's often translated as mind or intelligence, but it's not like the mind we think of as humans.
So, not our brains.
No, not exactly. Think of it more as a cosmic principle of order and intelligence, a force that pervades everything and sets the universe in motion.
Okay, I'm starting to see where you're going with this. This nous is like the driving force behind everything.
Exactly. Anaxagoras believed that the universe wasn't just a random collection of stuff, but that it was ordered and organized by this intelligence, this nous.
And this was a pretty radical idea at the time, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Especially in a world where people believed that the gods controlled every aspect of their lives. Anaxagoras comes along and says, nope, it's not the gods. It's this cosmic mind, this nous that's responsible for the order of the universe.
It's a pretty bold statement to make back then, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. And he didn't stop there. Anaxagoras went on to apply this idea of nous to explain the formation of the cosmos.
So how did he believe the universe came to be? Did he have his own version of a creation myth?
Kind of. Anaxagoras believed that in the beginning, everything existed in a chaotic, undifferentiated state. He called it a primordial mixture.
A primordial mixture, so like a cosmic soup.
Exactly. Imagine a soup where everything, all the ingredients, all the elements are just mixed up together in one big, messy pot.
Okay, I can picture that, a cosmic soup of pure potential. But how do we go from this soup to, well, stars and planets and people?
That's where nous comes in again. Anaxagoras believed that this cosmic mind acted upon the primordial mixture, setting it into motion and causing it to separate and differentiate.
So nous is like the chef who takes all those ingredients and turns them into a delicious meal.
That's a great analogy. And just like a skilled chef, nous doesn't just randomly throw things together. It separates, arranges, and orders the ingredients, creating the incredible diversity of the cosmos that we see today.
Wow, I mean, talk about revolutionary thinking. He's basically saying that the universe isn't governed by the whims of the gods, but by this underlying principle of order and intelligence. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is, and it's important to remember that he was coming up with these ideas without the benefit of telescopes, microscopes, or any of the scientific tools that we rely on today.
Just observation and pure thought.
Exactly. And Anaxagoras dared to look at the world around him, to question the accepted truths, and to come up with his own explanations based on reason and observation. And that, in itself, was a radical act.
So he challenged the idea of the gods, proposed this cosmic mind called nous, and then explained the creation of the universe as this primordial soup being organized by this intelligence. I can see why his ideas might have ruffled a few feathers.
You could say that. And his ideas about the sun and the moon didn't exactly win him any popularity contests either.
Oh, tell me more about that. What did Anaxagoras have to say about the celestial bodies? I'm all ears. So he's challenging centuries of tradition, religious beliefs, the works. I mean, you can't just go around saying the sun isn't a god in ancient Greece and expect to get away with it, right?
You're absolutely right. And for Anaxagoras, well, let's just say his bold ideas eventually caught up with him.
Uh-oh. This is where it gets really interesting. What happened? Give us the details.
Well, despite having powerful friends like Pericles, Anaxagoras ended up facing some serious accusations.
Like what? What did they charge him with?
The big one.
Impiety.
Impiety. That sounds pretty serious. What does that even mean in the context of ancient Greece?
Basically, it meant disrespecting the gods or undermining the traditional religious beliefs. And in a society where religion was so deeply intertwined with politics and everyday life, well,
It was a big deal.
a huge deal. Being found guilty of impiety could land you in some serious hot water.
So what happened to Anaxagoras? Did he face trial? Was he imprisoned?
The exact details are a bit murky, but we do know that Pericles, his powerful friend, stepped in to try and protect him.
He pulled some strings.
You could say that,
Yeah.
but even Pericles' influence could only go so far. Anaxagoras ended up being forced to flee Athens.
Exile. What a classic story. A thinker forced to flee his home for challenging the status quo. Where did he go?
He found refuge in Lampsacus, a city over in Asia Minor. And did he continue his work there? Did he continue to write and explore these big ideas?
As far as we know, he did. Even in exile, Anaxagoras remained a philosopher, a thinker, a seeker of truth. It really makes you wonder what other groundbreaking insights he might have had if he hadn't been forced to flee his home.
It's incredible to think that even after all this time, even though we only have fragments of his actual writings, his ideas continue to resonate with us today.
That's the power of a truly great thinker, isn't it? Their ideas transcend time and place. Anaxagoras dared to question everything, to look beyond the accepted truths of his time, and to search for a deeper understanding of the universe. And in doing so, he left behind a legacy that continues to inspire us centuries later.
It's a legacy of curiosity, of challenging assumptions, and of never being afraid to ask the big questions. Those are some pretty important lessons for any age. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of Anaxagoras. A big thank you to you, expert speaker, for guiding us through his fascinating life and groundbreaking ideas.
My pleasure. Always a joy to delve into these ancient minds.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. We hope this deep dive has sparked your own curiosity and maybe even inspired you to look at the world around you with fresh eyes. Until next time, Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking the truth wherever it may lead you.